Well, a very, very happy Tuesday, and welcome to another episode of the TNC Sports Talk. My name is Justin. Today is November 25th of 2025. We are just 2 days away from Thanksgiving. Holiday season is officially underway. If you don't have your Christmas tree up yet, I'm pretty sure this weekend is the best way to do so. And, you know, Man, we're kicking off great things. Today, I have a pretty interesting episode. I want to just kind of touch base, dive into some baseball conversations. Some early trades have already shooken up Major League Baseball this off season. I want to talk about those and just get you guys up to date with that. With Thanksgiving and Christmas, I wanted to just kind of review and go over a Cincinnati Reds. I'm going to put on my wish list of the improvements they can make to this organization based off of what's already been accomplished in the trade market, as well as where the Reds could definitely do some shopping at among the free agencies. So that's going to be kind of our laid back episode today, getting you guys all warmed up for a nice big turkey dinner coming up later this, week. Interesting. Okay. So, how do you guys do it? I'm very interested in learning what is other people's tradition when it comes to celebrating Thanksgiving. For me growing up, for a while it was either having it at home with my family and my grandparents would come over to my house, or we would go over to one of our grandparents' house, or we would go up to one side of our family's house and we'd celebrate Thanksgiving that way, with relatives. Um, it usually always insisted a turkey, stuffing, mashed potatoes, gravy, yams, all pumpkin pie, you name it. It wasn't much so of a ham tradition. It was a turkey tradition. I know when I moved out to Kentucky, things that were kind of rocky, I never really had to worry about a Thanksgiving. I wasn't responsible for bringing anything or preparing anything. I was the younger child, one of the childs to as they welcome you to adults, and usually everything gets left to the actual adults to put together. So that was nice. All we had to do was dress nice and show up, and that was fun. Over this past few years, as life has changed, I've been to some extended families' houses through Thanksgiving, and I got to tell you, I've always had turkey. I never had anything less. Deep fried is the way to go. If you haven't tried deep fried turkey, I encourage you to do it. One, there's just something about cooking a deep fried turkey, which it could be very easily be complicated and mess up when things mess up. It really shit hits the fan quite quickly, right? But it's compare it to, well, you got to brine the turkey, you got to marinate the turkey with your seasoned butter, stuff it in between the skin and the meat, and then layer it and then stuff the turkey. Some people use stuffing, some people I personally use, I throw in a couple onions, a couple lemons, some bay leaves, some thyme, kind of just stuff it that way. And then I would make my butter base and then put it on its tray and bake it. And I'd even last year I actually did it because I'm very new to cooking a turkey. So thank you, social media and YouTube's, for giving me a lot of great advice. I actually layered the top with bacon, and that was also the time where I was making homemade gravy. But this year, I'm gonna kind of do a lot of similar stuff, but gonna kind of back up a little bit. I bought a base for the gravy, so I'm gonna add to it. Hopefully, do a mashed potatoes, mac and cheese, do the turkey in the oven. I already have it in the refrigerator. I actually had it in the freezer, in the refrigerator. I took it out of the freezer back on Saturday, put it in the refrigerator, trying to time it up just right. Gonna kind of get it all, get a lot of stuff of that stuff prepped because I want to put it in. It's a 20-pound turkey, and I want to put it in. I'm feeding about 7 to 8 people, and I want to put it into the oven about 8, no later than 9 o'clock, because I want the turkey to be done by 2, 3 o'clock the latest. Let it rest an hour, which that's going to be my biggest thing. And then for me, it's timing everything else up right. I got the green bean casserole that needs to go in the oven. That needs to be prepared. That oven, that turkey takes up the entire oven, if you think about it, for me. And so I got to have the green bean casserole ready to go. As soon as that oven goes, that turkey gets taken out. And then you put in the green, the stuffing, the green bean casserole. I can make the mashed potatoes, kind of have that prepped, kind of have the mac and cheese prepped, ready to go. We have Hawaiian rolls. We have the yams. So all I got to do is towards the very end, and that's more of a dessert for me because I got pumpkin pie. I got cheesecake because my wife makes a really good cheesecake. So we got to have that. Pumpkin pie you get from Costco. And then we have the yams. Now, what I do with the yams is I got a big can of yams. I don't make too much because not a lot of people eat the yams. But I put a little bit of brown, heat it back up on the stove, put a little bit of brown sugar, right, on it, and I'll put it on a baking tray and then put marshmallows on top. Kind of just bake it for just a few minutes so the marshmallows can kind of, heat up, and you don't want it melting. You just want to heat it up, and that's my yams. That's a dessert product for me. So, so I'm just curious. That's just what is your meals for Thanksgiving this year, or traditionally. Last year was I think my first year getting a Thanksgiving meal done. And it's kind of just something that traditionally, it takes a lot of effort. You're in the kitchen most of the time. I think a lot of it has to do with the amount of time you prep for this. But I'm more so, I'm okay with that. I have I have a little larger party to feed this year, which I'm excited about. So I'm excited. And for me, my happiness on Thanksgiving, other than this Thursday watching the Bengals beat the Ravens, is to have a Thanksgiving day go perfect. So I'm talking about having, having all the food items be timed perfectly and cooked perfectly and distributed at the right time, right? And then have, be able to tune into the Macy's Day Parade, be able to tune into football games, the Lions and Packers, Chiefs and Cowboys, Bengals and Ravens. Spend time with the family, maybe try to play some games if possible, and just overall enjoy my day, But yeah, what is your meal preps? Is it a turkey? Is it a ham? What type of sides do you guys cook, enjoy? I encourage you guys to head over to our TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel, and in the community chat, feel free to comment under this video, any video. I'll receive your chat. It'll mean a lot to me to hear your response, as well as I'd love to be able to share that here on our podcast. So I'm trying to think of how to put this week together because, as you guys know, with Thanksgiving Thursday, Black Friday afterwards, and then a weekend, I'm only putting up 2 episodes up until Wednesday. I may do it all depends how I want to plan out tomorrow. May try to squeeze in one more episode, hopefully at the end of the week. maybe like a pre-recording and update it days later. There's a lot of content for football, as I have 8 games for AI content. Well, 7 games AI, computers playing each other, and then we're playing the Bengals game. So interesting about that is that I have to get all the 7 games completed and copied over to a flash drive so I can save space on the console. And then I got to play the Bengals game on Thursday and get that all published before Thursday, and then Friday rolls in. So I got to basically, because this is one thing that sucks about when you're playing a franchise series. This is why I didn't want to play the Bengals franchise series, because you don't have the option to allow you to simulate every game and just let AI play. It has to be regarding towards you have to actually play the game, and you can't let the computer play under franchise mode, unfortunately. So what I have done is I have had to take a franchise mode. I had to create, and I'm thinking about this now, and I'm already too invested into the season to change it. But at the time, at the beginning of this season, I had to let AI can play under quick play the games throughout the week, right? I'd have Thursday night, Sunday night, Monday night. I'd have international games obviously available. Any Friday or Saturday games coming up those are special marked games available. And then I would have the Bengals at a 1 o'clock or a 4 o'clock, unless they're in primetime deal. And then I'll substitute that for a time frame, for another game in that time slot. Now, since baseball season's over with, I have more availability to produce and publish more football games. So more content for people to enjoy. With that, though, I discovered a new option that I could go, and technically it would work out. It's a plug in and simulate. But, under quick play, under the Madden, NFL Madden 26 video game, you have the option to play week by week games for that week. Which means, coming up this week under quick play, they'll have an option. You make a custom game, or you could select one of the matchups scheduled for week 13. And so that's kind of what I'm going off. That's kind of where I've been going off of. Commentaries are kind of already filled in. You just select the jerseys, which I try my best. Sometimes they're not always released too far in advance, so I try my best to match up uniforms. I don't just randomly select uniforms. And so, coming into this week, the game plan is that I had to wait for Monday to get out. So I got this. I got, this week's was released today. And I was hoping to get some sort of, what do you want to call it? Thanksgiving edition. So I waited for the games to be available. I got, out of the 8 games I needed to complete, I got 4 of them halfway through. So I'm copying the 2 games that was played earlier in the game on Thanksgiving, coming up on Thursday. Those are already played. They're being copied over. Friday afternoons, Bears, Eagles games already being copied over, and I already got the first Sunday's game out of the way. Got 3 more games, 2 on Sunday, 1 on Monday, and then I got to play the Bengals and Ravens game. All the gaming content needs to be officially played by tomorrow. And then that way I could get, Thursday, all 3 games on Thursday done, and then Friday, and then my games on Sunday and Monday. So busy schedule away. Anyways, I'm getting very sidetracked. So baseball doesn't get a lot of recognition during the offseason. And it's kind of it could be a quiet off season for a majority of the ball clubs. And what ends up happening is that they do make deals and moves throughout the off season, but sometimes they're so, a lot of people don't pay attention to those until, January or even February after football, when everyone seems to report to spring training. But I like to at least keep up to date and follow, because so many moving pieces happen in baseball during the off season that you could easily get bypassed on. And, so I want to stay up to date. Plus, the Cincinnati, with the holiday season, I want to create ourselves a little wish list. We know players that aren't on this team so far. And so a lot of my resources right now is coming from CBS Sports under the baseball MLB and the Cincinnati Reds website for Major League Baseball. So I wanted to provide an update real quick on the deals and transactions that we've seen. Last week we saw, what did we see? We saw, I want to see where I can find it. I don't know where it's at. It was the Orioles making a deal with the Angels. It was, I don't know, it was Rodriguez, a right-handed pitcher, last name's Rodriguez for the Orioles, went to Los Angeles in exchange for outfielder Tyler Wade. So we saw that last week. The Mets traded Brandon Nimmo for Marcus Semien to the Texas Rangers. So the Mets received pitcher Marcus Semien. In exchange, the Rangers received Brandon Nimmo, shaking things up. And then reporting today by Matt Snyder, the Red Sox trade for Cardinals veteran pitcher Sonny Gray. So let's see what. The Red Sox acquire three-time All-Star to boost their rotation behind Garrett Crochet, whatever you say his name is. The Red Sox made a Thanksgiving week trade, acquiring right-handed pitcher Sonny Gray from the Cardinals. Headed back to the Cardinals are the left-handed pitcher Brandon Clark and right-handed pitcher Richard Fitz. Gray, who is 36, set to make $35 million this upcoming season before a $30 million team option for 2027 with a $5 million buyout. His contract was reworked as part of the deal, and he'll now get $31 million in 2026 and a mutual option that has a $10 million buyout in 2027. This is per The Athletic. The Red Sox will also receive $20 million from the St. Louis Cardinals in delay, or to help defray Gray's salary. Leaving Red Sox total hit at about $21 million, according to CBS Sports. The Cardinals are going through a bit of a rebuild, which we could clearly see, shredding dollars where they can, reopening and opening up spaces for younger players, while Red Sox are looking for rotation help. So it's a good match for this deal. In 32 starts last season, Gray was 14-8 with a 4.28 ERA with 201 strikeouts against a 38 walks and 180 innings. 180. So the Red Sox are looking to build. And remember this deal, okay, because the Red Sox was a team who we thought this past summer during the trade deadline that they were going to kind of unload and rebuild also. We know where the Cardinals are. They're trying to unload some salary and rebuild, and it's a process. And For St. Louis, it's going to be a devastating process over the next 3 to 5 years, in my opinion, because you got to tear it all down and then rebuild it back up and make some money that way. And I guess you just, as good as the Cardinals have been, as good as the Cardinals have always brought in top tier talent, and when you've had Albert Pujols and Adam Wainwright, well, you're sliding in guys like, okay, Nolan Arenado is joining the mix. So when Pujols went to Los Angeles, you're not really, you got Paul Goldschmidt for a while. You weren't really missing out, right? You're just replacing some of the guys. Well, now all of this is kind of eating up. We're no longer winning. Adam Wainwright's out. Pujols was retired. We can't, how far can they keep it going? Every team has that point, and if you don't play that strategy correct, and you're not winning, they haven't won for a while. If then it leaves, an open to really tear down, which means you got to unload some top tier, guys. Sonny Gray is one of those players that listen, I don't know how, but he's making some good money. 20 million, $31 million out of that deal. $20 million the Red Sox are going to pick up, basically. I think it's a win. And in return, the Cardinals get a couple of young, talented guys. So I was looking at this, and I'm just kind of like, all right, so we're seeing deals made. A couple of deals made here across the board. And we're taking a look at the Cincinnati Reds. And I'm like, man, what do we need? Who do we need? In that retrospect. Let me see if I could get. I wanted to get a certain list popped up. I want to get this is a tracker. I want to get the tracker. There we go. Sorry. I thought I had this. So this is coming. I'm going to have this popped up. This is actually coming from MLB.com. So I was looking at the Reds roster, and I was looking at the transactions. I was just trying to scam through. So Reds claim catcher Ben Rortvedt off the Ravers from the Dodgers. They also selected the contract of shortstop Leo Balcazar from the Lookouts, as well as Edwin Arroyo. They designated Carson Spears for assignment back on the 18th. They select the contract of left-handed left fielder Hector Rodriguez, as well as TJ Antone, who signed a minor league contract. Carson Spears has elected free agency, as well as Rodri Munoz and Will Benfield. The Reds signed free agent right-handed pitcher Carson Spears to a minor league contract, inviting him to spring training. That was done yesterday. This is the time we're kind of just getting a very close look at who we have. I'll go over the coaching staff at a later date. So far on the non-roster list, Carson Spears has already been listed. Here's the 40-man depth chart. We have Andrew Abbott, Julian Aguiar, Graham Ashcraft, Chase Burns, Jose Franco, Hunter Green, Nick Lodolo, Rhett Lauder, Zach Maxwell, Luis May, Sam Maul, Chase Petty, Connor Phillips, Lyon Richardson, Tony Santillan, Brady Singer, Keegan Thompson, Brandon Williamson, Yolzer Zulieta. Our catchers, we have Ben, Tyler Stevenson, Jose Trevino. Infielders, we have Edwin Arroyo, Leo Balcazar, Ellie De La Cruz, Christian Encarnacion Strand. Excuse me. Gosh. Key Bryant Hayes, Noel V. Marte, Matt McClain, Spencer Steer, Sal Stewart. Outfield, we have Bill Billington, Tyler Callahan, Blake Dunn, TJ Friedel, Reese Hines, Gavin Lux, Hector Rodriguez. All right. So that is kind of just a list in a nutshell. So where can these Reds realistically move along? Okay. Um, you know, I see. I didn't know that Brady Singer's back, but he is. It looks like, at least according to what the roster says on the website. So you got Hunter Green, Brady Singer, Andrew Abbott, Chase Burns, Brandon Williamson. We see Nick Lodolo. We saw last year Graham Ashcraft go to the bullpen. Nick Lodolo right now is under the bullpen. I'm assuming that is just to fit the, rotation. I mean, look, I personally believe that Hunter Green's our ace. I think Andrew Abbott has improved, in my opinion, enough to take on the responsibility as runner-up from the ace position as our top-tier rotation, along with if Brady Singer is on this roster, then he's my three guys. Those are my top three guys that I feel comfortable going out every 3 games. And I'm going to protect them. I want them healthy. I want them, working with every catcher. I want them to be in the spotlight. Okay. Chase Burns, who I liked seeing come up last year. Brandon Williamson, I haven't seen too much of him in the major leagues. But, we have a solid 3 front guy that I feel comfortable with. You throw in a Nick Lodolo, here, another left-handed pitcher. Graham Ashcraft has also done well in the bullpen. And then, you're kind of maybe now feeling out, all right, who's your maybe your upcoming closer this year. The problem I have is that we saw the issue, and the issue in hindsight was last year, which I thought we fixed, was our starting rotations, they were limited. And one thing Terry Francona did as the first time head manager for this Reds team was pull back a lot of those strings. There was a lot of pitchers that weren't limited and on assignment for amount of innings or amount of pitches. So they were capable of going deep into ball games. And what this did was allow a little relief from the bullpen, because one of our, I think bullet points over the last few years was an overworked bullpen. And you would have these bullpen guys come out and try to finish a ball game coming into the 4th or even 5th inning. And so the fact that you have not 1, not 2, but 3 guys that you could depend on to give you at least a solid 6 outings, and then you have some guys in the 4 or 5 slot, always room to improve, but takes the less off of the bullpen. What I saw last year that really frustrated me is we were in a lot of ball games. And a lot of our guys that were coming in from the bullpen, there was that expectation, look, they should have held them to a lead. If you're being asked to get 3 outs in 1 inning and you just can't get it done, what else? We got to clean house. So we, in our rotation, we did our job by taking some workload off of you, but you're still not doing your job. And that's where things got a bit frustrating from time. So, as we are securing ourselves in a rotation this year, which I like a lot of the guys, and it all knock on wood, we got to be healthy. We really got to step with our bullpen. I like Ashcraft. Thompson, I'm okay with. Phillips, I like the guys so far that's in our bullpen. You think of someone like Ashcraft or Lodolo, in my opinion, my eyes, I see those guys that could go longevity, which could be very beneficial in giving guys a day off. But we can't think of this roster as, well, we have to do a bullpen day, right? Can't happen. So I'm looking at guys who can potentially be like, you know what? Okay, we have to we have to, and I can't look at guys that, it's our rotation needs to continue and our bullpen needs to step up its game. Um, keep going here. We're gonna find it. There we go. Nope. Let's see if this is. I'm trying to find the right list, and I'm sorry, you guys. I expect a little bit more. Um, so don't need that. I don't need news. Let's see what this. All right. Finally brought it up. So let's go down. This is on MLB.com. This is 2025-2026 free agents position by position. Also keeps you updated where they are placed at. So I was looking, we're looking down the list. Who do we have that are free agent? Because I think pitching is always great. I'm going to start off with the bullpen. I'm scrolling through names. And for me, I'm thinking of someone who has under a 1 in whip, as well as they are a younger person. And when I think of a younger person, I'm thinking of 33 years of age or less. I'm also trying to consider maybe somebody who has not been on our team yet. For example, Lucas Sims is on this list. We've already had Lucas Sims. And another pitcher that I've seen crumble in Cincinnati that I am not interested in seeing back again. And so I'm kind of going through this list and I'm just going to highlight any names that I think can make a splash. I'm thinking out loud now just for you guys, and it will probably change over the next couple months. But Tony Santillan, however you say his last name, he is someone who is probably going to be our closer unless we could pick up somebody. So let's work around building him. Jose Castillo has a 0.1 at the age of 30. He's an option. And it's going to be a tough list when it comes down to pitching. Jack Little, who is 28 years old. We already got Keegan Thompson, who signed a 1-year deal. Kind of just going Trent Thornton. Scott Barlow, who's 33. I would keep him in mind. Man, there's just not a whole bunch. Michael Kopech, also another one that would be open. And like I said, this is just a wish list. Guys who are available that I don't know how they really line up to be a Cincinnati Reds playing in this humidity in the Central. Brady Keller, not Luis Garcia, Brady Keller, Gregory Soto is another name. Luke Weaver's only 32. Sean Newcomb is only 33. And I understand that you wouldn't want to pile, positions and what the intent is for them. Edwin Diaz is 32. That's a long shot, but Ryan Hesley, 31. So some relief pitchers just to kind of keep an eye on. I'm not saying let's get every single one of them, but picking up at least maybe one more, if not two more, adding on to who we already have could definitely help. You want to pick up guys that can give us a solid outing every other day or every 2 days. Starting pitching, I know we already have ourselves a solid format at Hunter Green, Andrew Abbott, Brady Singer, Chase Burns in there, Nick Lodolo's another one. I'm still thinking of that ballpark range under 30, 33 and under uh, as an interesting point. I'm not looking for any international signings right now. Carson Spears has been invited to spring training. I think you keep him under that, and if he gets picked up by somebody else, that's great for him. Josh Means, who is 33. We're looking at someone who could fit down at the bottom of that rotation. Jordan Montgomery is one of those guys that I'm going to add to that list. Paul Blackburn as well. Dustin May could be a little devil in disguise at the bottom of that rotation. Cal Quantrill, who's 31. Um, Griffin Canning, we've already done. I think we've already done Frankie Montas. Michael Soroka. Chris Paddock. I would be a fan favorite for him. Possibly maybe even bringing back Michael Lorenzen. I know that's pushing it, but he's 34. We've already had Tyler Mahle. Nestor Cortez, I think you'd have to place him up higher. So if you don't feel so comfortable. See, I would even throw out the idea that if you could even bring in another top tier guy, take some pressure off of Brady Zinger, Andrew Abbott. Bring him down 3 and 4 slots, right? And that's just my opinion. Zach Eflin. A lot of these pitchers are going to be looking for ace positions. Zach Littell, I don't think we'll bring him back. Zach Gallen, probably looking for an ace position. Michael King can get some work done down at the bottom of the rotation. Ranger Suarez and Framber Valdez. Wouldn't it be nice if we can sit there and bring in, somebody, Michael King. All they need is a new team, new look. You're not having that big pressure filling in as an ace. Nestor Cortez kind of come in and take an inning. The next question that we're going to ask ourselves heading into all this has to be our catching position. We just picked up that Dodger backup catcher. We have Tyler Stevenson, Jose Trevino. I really like the idea of throwing Tyler Stevenson at first base and utilize him more while picking up Jose Trevino. Tyler, it will keep him protected, low risk for injuries behind the plate, which if you throw out guys that could be a potential catcher that we can bring in, and we're looking for a backup for Jose Trevino. Victor Carantini is one that comes to mind. He's 32 years old. Elias Diaz, a little too old for his age at 35. I wouldn't put them there. Maybe a Gary Sanchez. But Gary Sanchez, for me, is as equal to Jose Trevino. I still like the entertaining idea that Tyler Stevenson can be a third option as a catcher, but play majority of his time on the field as a first baseman moving forward. And then he would also share the role and responsibility with playing with a designated hitter who we don't have just a specific person for. Now, this would all mean that we would have to be able to acquire a first baseman. Now, this would probably entertain the idea that we don't acquire someone like a Pete Alonso in this case, but this would also mean that we would have to find ourselves another catcher to work alongside Jose Trevino. And right now, I don't necessarily see anyone that catches my attention that would be a cheap budget because you're paying Tyler Stevenson and you're also paying Jose Trevino as your backup catcher. Now, I see guys like JT Realmuto, Victor Carantini, Elias Diaz, available Gary Sanchez. I also see Luke Mahle, and then Jacob Stalling Martin Maldonado, but none of them just kind of thrive that idea of, okay, let's jump into that. And I feel like that's a disappointing time. Now we have Spencer Steer at first base, but he was using a lot of his time also at third and in the outfield. So the big question is how do you if you go for a guy like Pete Alonso? I know he's been mentioned out here in Cincinnati for a few times already as a possible candidate for a Reds for first baseman. I mean, there's really no. I mean, you're also looking for who's going to pay top dollar tier for a first baseman in him at the age of 31. I think he's still in his prime. Uh, Josh Bell, I'd pass. Ty France, I'd pass. I'm looking for an everyday first baseman and then a designated hitter because there's also that entertainment of Kyle Schwarber. I think everybody on this Reds team needs to be able to play a position if needed and excel. And I think first base is one of those positions for the Reds that if we could put some bat in life into that position and place him in the 3, 4, 5 slot area, we will feel comfortable. Nathaniel Lowe is a guy also on this list as an alternative, in my opinion. Then you also throw out Ty France, Lamont Wade Jr. possibility, Rowdy Tellez. But I'm still circling. I like the Pete Alonso idea, and I think that would be making a big, bold move heading into the wintertime where we could get a deal done with him, possibly top tier. He'll be an everyday first baseman. It will resolve the issue with Tyler Stevenson being behind the plate, focusing that in his DH spot. Spencer Steer can be a utility guy playing first, third, and possibly even outfield like we've used him before. Not every day, but I think a guy coming off the bench and giving Pete Alonso days off. Second base, we have Matt McLain and Gavin Lux. Something calls out to me for Matt McLain to be a utility guy. I like him being it's a plug and go type scenario, which would have me as Gavin Lux as a second baseman through and through. I'm not really entertaining anyone right now that would be ideal to come into this organization as a second baseman. Yeah, I don't have anyone right now that would just, kind of entertain that idea that you and I want to spend an arm and a leg for him. We already got Ellie De La Cruz at shortstop, and we got Key Brian Hayes at third. They have Sal Stewart and Matt McLain as backup, which is fine by me. You still have Christian Encarnacion Strand. Some of these guys coming off the bench is going to have to be able to play multiple positions like they once used to be able to. Your biggest question is coming out of your outfield, where you currently have Gavin Lux, TJ Friedel, and Noelvi Marte playing your horn. You have Will Benson as another guy coming off the bench. And that's pretty much it. We need to look into it would be an adjust, especially if we don't get a guy like Pete Alonso, to not sign somebody that has power. Jesse Winker is older veteran. I'd like to maybe see him come back to this ball club, under different circumstances. We see right out there in right field, we got Kyle Tucker. I know that's another long shot, but hey, who knows, right? I see. Jake Fraley was released last year. I don't see them bringing him back. I don't see Matt Yastrzemski back out there. So right field is kind of off. Cody Bellinger could be a possibility. Harrison Badar. Well, we got TJ Friedel pretty solid there. Probably asked him to move over to a corner spot. You got Jesse Winker. Maybe you could re-sign Miguel Andujar, possibly. Man, this Christopher Morel. There's not many options, to be honest. I'm looking at this list and I'm just not entertained. So the point of what I'm trying to make here is that I'm not seeing, you got a pretty solid front on the left side of the infield. Hunter, Ellie De La Cruz, Key Brian Hayes. I don't see him. That's a perfect 1-2 punch. I know Ellie and Matt McLean's been working pretty hard. Although I like to see Matt McLean as a utility guy. If you don't find an outfielder to bring in that has a little bit of power, Gavin Lux is you're out there is in your left field. I think I think Will Benson should be your everyday right field until you can bring somebody in. But you also got Spencer Steer coming off the bench. The point is that we have to be able to find some key powerful guys. And I named a whole bunch of lists. So if I'm going to revisit this list. We got out there in our bullpen pitcher. Here's a little wish list that I think we could go. Ryan Hazley is one of the guys that I like to bring in. I like to also bring in or options of guys such as Sean Newcomb. I like to see possibly a Luke Weaver. I like to see guys that can not necessarily be our closer because there's only one closer right now I see available, and that's Edwin Diaz. I am looking for someone that can be a setup guy. And I don't think that we have anyone on the team already that is consistent enough to be your eighth guy setting up for Tony. Starting pitchers. Look, I think we're fine where we're at now. You could always if you could get some bullpen guys to help out, you could always move Nick Lodolo back to the rotation. You're creating space for Brandon Williamson and Chase Burns that I would like to see more of. I think that would be a number 5 fighting spot. There's a couple of guys. The key thing for pitching is 33 and under, in my opinion, and that can contribute. It doesn't matter. Even a guy like Michael King can contribute in the bottom end. We need some guys that can be consistent for 5 solid innings and giving this ball club an honest chance. Kyle Schwarber is a designated hitter whose age is 33 years old, and he's a free agent. He's probably one of the top free agents of all of baseball. I know Kyle could play a little bit of outfield, but his biggest acquisition is the power offensively. And the Reds right now lack guys who have the power on a consistent basis. If we are the Reds, I'm thinking I need to add 1 or 2 guys to that list. If you're going to add somebody in the infield, I think the only guy that makes logic sense has to be Pete Alonso. But at what cost are you willing to pay him top dollar and for how long to have him come over to Cincinnati? Now, what I like about him is that he's not just a first baseman. He's also a DH. But then just because you get him, you'd have to pick up one more. You have a guy like Kyle Tucker. You have a guy like a couple of names out there, Miguel Andujar. That's a possibility to bring back. Right? Jesse Winker is available still. We're looking for offensive ability, power. in the outfield. Someone who could take control of the corner. And one of the side parts that I'm concerned about this year is your right field, Noelvi Marte and Will Benson. If you put Gavin Lux or Spencer Steer out there in left field, sure. But I still think that they need to create some sort of power heading into this offseason. So that's two big names that I think we need to at least sign heading into the season. Your left side of the field is good. I would say your second baseman spot is good. There's really no one on that list, even if you wanted to come in. First baseman, there's really no one else other than maybe Nathaniel Lowe that could provide you that type of stability. And then a catcher, there's really no list. So there's really not much here to go off of, to be honest. I will tell you this, though, is that this is going to fill up very quickly. And what we're gonna be asking ourselves, which we could almost put together the answer, is if Nick Krall and the Castellinis are able to take our success this past season and willing to build from it. Okay? When I mean build from it, it's add key additional players that are capable of contributing in major ways and have this a team that looks like a serious team. Let's remind you that Milwaukee beat the Cubs in the postseason, but then the Dodgers shut out Milwaukee in the postseason. Let's remind you that. With the Cardinals on a rebuild, Pittsburgh, I don't know what they're doing. But the bottom line is that we only have the Cubs and Milwaukee, who had to make a impressive back end of the year run to make it to the postseason. We're not far off. This season is the season to prove that going to the wild card, sliding in and taking the New York Mets was not a mistake, it wasn't a coincidence. This is because this Reds team could be good. But, have we been good this year for Santa to leave something underneath that Christmas tree, as that we are talking about? I'm interested to see what you guys think when it comes to the wish list. What is your wish list, whether it's for the Cincinnati Reds or for any other team in the major leagues this offseason as winter meetings approach here in the next couple of weeks? That is all the time we had for you today. I apologize. I ranted a little bit on as we went through that list a bit slowly. Wanted to cover all the bases. If you guys are listening to us on our audio platforms, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Please like, share, and subscribe. Head on over to our YouTube page. I want to hear your comments in the community chat. Let us know what you guys think and all that stuff. Hey, I want to give a big shout out to our good friends at Enlighten Studios, Terry Chappell, and the crew for a successful theater production earlier this year called Dinner with a Few Sides of Drama. If you guys haven't gotten a chance to watch the production, first of all, you're not going to get the same experience as if you was there in person. I tell you that right now. But they have the production edited and published on their YouTube channel, on the Enlightened Studios YouTube channel. You can find it on our social media page. And so I just encourage you to take some time. It's about an hour long. Check out the video, support them, share it with a friend, and want to thank them for providing me opportunities, because we wouldn't be on this podcast here this right now today if it wasn't for them providing opportunities for others. That is all the time I have. We will be back again tomorrow. We want to talk about the upcoming Week 13 in football. I want to cover what's going on because the match card is final coming up this Saturday in San Diego at Petco Park Survivor Series. We have a men and women Survivor Series match. John Cena defending his IC title. We'll talk about that. Plus, I have my own take on the first looks of what this arena, the stadium looks like with the setup. So I want to dive into that and get ready for a Thanksgiving meal. There's so much great things to be thankful for here in 2025. So want to thank everyone for tuning in, and be sure to have those notifications on so you don't miss an episode. Until next time, you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Take care.